everyone, and welcome to the Legacy Café Podcast with your host, Robb Lucy. Robb is the author of the book, How Will You Be Remembered? A Guide for Creating and Enjoying Your Legacies Now. So please, grab yourself a cup of coffee and find yourself a seat in the Legacy Café. Here's Robb.
Thanks, Kathy. Hello, everyone. I'm Robb Lucy, and welcome to the Legacy Café Podcast. I'm delighted you're here. And, well, let's get something right out of the way. If you've ever thought legacy was just about leaving the money and the real estate to the kids, or think you'll only find out what your legacies are when your eulogist starts speaking, well, we're going to change that view, as my nephew would say, big time. So here's my promise. The Legacy Café Podcast will introduce you to some fascinating people with conversations on anything and everything legacy. And those conversations will act as catalysts to get your mind spinning a bit with all the legacies you can enjoy at any age, today, and all the benefits that come with them. Now, the purpose of this podcast is to give you a little taste of the conversations you'll hear in upcoming podcasts. You know, I was being interviewed by a man named Jack Canfield, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. I'm sure you know him. And he said, Robb, why are you trying to change everyone's view of legacy? So I told him this story. I was sitting on a plane and showed a fellow beside me a book I just launched with my father. And it contained the stories of his experiences in World War II as an artilleryman. And he was right in the thick of the action. 24 chapters and every one a Spielberg movie. A few years earlier, Dad and I traveled to the beaches of Normandy through France, Belgium, and Holland, where the very good and the very bad happened. It was a stunning trip for father and son. And I gathered his story because I didn't want it to disappear. And his story, our book, is now a proud family legacy. Our descendants, 100, 200, 300 years from now, will learn what their great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, my father, did during the war. Then the fellow on the plane asked where I was going. And I said I was going to get a $10,000 check for helping develop a large charity and give it to that charity. He said, well, that's really quite a legacy you've got. And I thought, I can't have a legacy. I believe, like most folks, that legacies are all about sending everything down to the kids. But I didn't have kids. And I wasn't rich. And I wasn't famous. And I certainly wasn't dead yet. So this got me thinking about what a legacy can be. And my book is the result. Mr. Canfield said to me, it's a great read that will leave the reader inspired. Well, I'm happy Jack Canfield likes the book. After all, he's sold over 500 million of his own. And I hope my book puts a smile on the face of just a small portion of that. Now, here's what I think is a great definition of legacy. It's something that we create that connects us to others. And that's a big one, connection. It enhances all our lives. It makes us happy now as we use our signature strengths, our talents, our skills and values to create our legacies of all sorts. And we can enjoy our legacies now, knowing they'll continue to do good when we finally go. So, a legacy connects us, enhances lives, makes us happy, and we can enjoy them for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Let me give you a taste of some of the great conversations you'll hear on the Legacy Café. First of all, you'll hear our panel share their ideas about collecting those legacy stories, like I did with my dad.
Many people think of legacy as something that you leave after you're gone. And I believe that a legacy story is your life story that you have right now.
Does it need to have a lesson or some greater significance to the hearer, or can it simply be something that the teller wants to share?
If I sit and listen to your story, I'm going to take away something unique to me that maybe you don't even realize creates a legacy when you're telling it.
Have you ever looked at all those old pictures and wondered what kind of stories could those pictures tell?
You know, we took 24 or 36 rolls of film, and then we would get those double prints back. Many of them are still sitting in those envelopes stored in shoe boxes, photo albums which are deteriorating. At this point, these are the most important touchstones of your life. These are the memories that matter.
And now, if I wanted to, how do I tell my own story? Maybe it's by writing what is called an ethical will, or sometimes called a legacy letter.
Yeah, very simply stated, an ethical will is a way to record and share, that's very important, your values, beliefs, life lessons, faith, gratitude, love, and forgiveness with family, friends, and community.
Now, I'm a boomer, and I wondered how our parents, and then us, and then Gen X, and the millennials, I wondered how each group thinks differently about legacy.
The boomers' parents typically worked very hard, and they left everything to the kids. And everything wasn't very much. It might be the house. But a lot of these boomers have done very, very well. And for the first time, you have a large number of people thinking, my concern is to not leave my kids too much money and ruin them.
Have you got a family tree? You know, all those names and dates going back and connecting you to, third cousin Joan of Arc, or your great 4 times removed Uncle Henry VIII. How does genealogy help find those legacy stories, and vice versa?
And if you were to look at a tombstone, you generally see a birth date and a death date, and then oftentimes there's a dash right between those two things, but there's an awful lot that goes on in that dash.
And philanthropy. If I'm a philanthropist, am I automatically a legacy builder? And what if I'm not rich? Can I be a philanthropist without a big fat bank account?
In reality, more and more people are discovering that they can be philanthropists or generous givers without necessarily having to have 7 digits in their financial statement.
Okay, a couple more conversations I think you'll find interesting. I wondered if there's a legacy mindset. A mindset that asks, how will everything I do affect the future? And there is. It's called the concept of generativity.
Generativity is a process by which we create a legacy. It might not even have your name on it, but somehow it has something of you and this very distinctive thing that is you in it. And there will be people who remember you for that thing.
Have you ever been in a towering, magnificent cathedral in Europe, or stood at the bottom of the Great Pyramids? Are they legacies? Could one of these be the legacy of, say, a stonemason who helped to build it at the very start, who was happy adding his craft even though it wouldn't be finished for hundreds of years? Now that, as I've learned, is called cathedral thinking.
Cathedral thinking is about the long term, but started with things that are enjoyable or meaningful today. Keeping you today doing meaningful tasks that have you tethered to the future.
Well, those are a few samples taken from conversations at the Legacy Café, and you can enjoy these conversations while driving or walking or just relaxing at home with a cup of Joe or Java or coffee or even a cup of tea. You know, I'm really delighted you're here and interested in learning about what your legacies can be and how they can make our lives more fulfilling and fun. Each week, there'll be a new conversation in the cafe, and I don't want you to miss any of them, so there's one thing I highly recommend. Make sure you subscribe so we can let you know each week when a new episode is up. Just go to legacycafe.org. That's legacycafe.org. I'm Robb Lucy. Enjoy the podcasts that are on the Legacy Café now and all those that are coming. Thanks for sharing your time with me today in the Legacy Café. I'll talk to you again soon.